This is the Requiem of Vince McMahon, take one.
Take one and
Action.
Backstage Brawl. You already know what it is. Back with another episode. I am your host, as always, the Golden Child.
Been a long time. Should have left you without a dope beat to step two.
Step two. We're back. People's Champ, of course, as you see, aka Randy Lewis. We got Eric B, aka Diamond Cutter. We got Kid Ty, aka Tyler Hicks, bringing you the wrestling news of the week. And unfortunately, there was a big bombshell that happened almost right before SmackDown even happened, and it pretty much encapsulates this title more or less of this Backstage Brawl episode. Big E, what's that title again? What's that title? What's that title you say?
This is episode 35, and this will be called the Requiem of Vince McMahon. Hands down. That's all I can call it.
And honestly, this is like coming off the heels of the unfortunate, firing and future endeavoring of one Zelina Vega, formerly the Trinidad. As you guys already know, earlier today, because we're recording this on a Saturday, you had People's Champion Diamond Cutter basically spread their knowledge on the matter. Kid Ty, what's your take on this matter, man?
I'm not smiling because I'm happy. I'm smiling because you're not in disbelief. It's more so you smile to kind of try to make yourself comfortable with anything in regards to Vince McMahon. This has been a very weird 24 hours removed from the firing or the release of Zelina Vega, for the obvious reasons. I'm pretty sure you've been through a whole host of different things if you've been watching the news unfold minute by minute. We covered it a couple weeks ago, the whole situation of the Twitch deals and the other outside deals of these kind of sites where you can pay money to your favorite people, like the Patreons, the OnlyFans, the Twitch followers and everything, and how WWE was trying to get into that business. Randy did a very good job explaining all of that a bit ago. But the past 24 hours has been very weird because now we're starting to see even more of the fallout from it. We saw what happened with Paige, her kind of like, opening up to her audience about it on Twitch. And now we're seeing, and hearing that, Zelina Vega was actually standing up to herself, as Randy wanted a lot of the talent to do. And she's been fired for it. And it's a shame I'm actually kind of just taken so much aback by it. I can't even explain it that well, but I think the news came as a shock for a lot of people. If you weren't in the know of what was going on, it's a shock because Zelina Vega has been one of the most one of the most featured talents of the year, especially. She's one of the main reasons why Andrade Cien almost was able to get over the way that he did. She was a huge portion of WWE's talking segments in the past year or so. Just her on the mic was one of the strong suits that most people saw from her off the bat, especially with the acting added skills that she learned from working in movies and working with The Rock on the Page movie and whatnot. She's only added to her huge list of skills because all of us know she can go in the ring. If you followed her long enough, you've seen her over the past couple of years in many a promotion. But if you are in the know and know about the Twitch deal, it comes across as shocking, but not shocking, considering the fact that a lot of people were rumored to be upset about what was going on. The fact that WWE's trying to dip their toes into like scheduling people on certain days to stream and making Twitch more of a job than an outside expenditure that the people who work in the company can do. And while I understand some people's argument in terms of like, if you're using your WWE name to get over on Twitch and do your thing, WWE should get a portion of the money from it. I understand that, but when the original wording of the message that Vince McMahon or the higher ups had sent to people saying that regardless of your real, we will take the money regardless of your real name and all these other things that have been brought up, there's been a bad taste in everybody's mouth for a while, and this was obviously the blow off to one of possibly many confrontations going forward. Zelina Vega leaving leaves a big hole in the WWE in the sense that they lost one of their strongest talkers. She was just proving to the world how good she was in the ring, having some very interesting and very impressive showings against Asuka as of late for the Raw Women's Championship. She just got drafted over to SmackDown, so we're not really going to see any, what's the word, closure on where that was going to go, especially considering that they were teasing her and Andrade splitting already. Then you have the fact that, like, in the midst of all the COVID releases that were happening earlier in the year, the free agency's never been a bigger pool than it's been. A lot of people are trying to find a new home, not only for financial security, but also because, like, there's not a lot of wrestling going on right now. We just saw things opening up not too long ago, right? With some indies starting to have limited capacity, the bigger promotions having things happen in limited capacity, AEW introducing fans in their little bubbles, and WWE looking to expand and tour again and have their bubble and have their own, fans come in maybe at 25% at best, So now Zelina's not going to be able to compete for any promotion until mid-February. And for me, I feel really bad about the whole situation, not just because Zelina was literally getting fired for doing what she's supposed to do. She got her channel over on her own, and if she used her her WWE name or not, something could have been worked out to where Zelina could have at least changed her name and continued using her channel the way that she had. She worked very hard to get what she had, and for her to lose it because WWE is trying to dip into every pool of money they can really is annoying. The talents don't have live events anymore. They're losing that bit of income. They try to find other ways to make money, and under the label of independent contractor, they should legally be able to. And for people who don't know, a lot of you guys probably are aware of the scam that is the independent contractor thing, where WWE basically owns you like an employee, but they label you an independent contractor so you can't get certain benefits. People already know, like, the whole term sports entertainment was used essentially as a way for Vince to not have to pay certain taxes and, be able to keep certain financials to himself. But what really annoys me is, like, under the actual term independent contractor, people in WWE would technically have the ability to go to AEW and compete while under WWE contract. They'd be able to compete in other promotions. They could compete in other fighting disciplines. Like, we recently heard about, Xia Li having her, I think her kickboxing debut be scrapped because the WWE wasn't for it. And it all comes down to Vince's whole desire to control a lot of elements. We've even heard, jokes in the past that actually ended up being true. Vince doesn't like sneezes because he can't control them. So the fact that Vince wants to have all this control and he has all these talents breaking their backs for him that have allowed him to have the empire that he's had, whether he's legally able to do this or not, it's neither here nor there. From a moral standpoint, like, these talents are doing everything for you, and you continually, shove your foot in their face, basically reminding them, look, I own you. And I think Vince, in some regard, does truly believe he owns these people, and he's happy about it. In the live earlier with Randy and with Eric, they were talking about how they felt like a couple of officials in WWE were full of shit in terms of how they treat their talent when it's convenient versus when it really matters, i.e. Stephanie McMahon, in their opinion. And I can definitely see that opinion. I sit here and I think to myself, like, with all the news, because, I gave a little summary there, been put on the spot. This has been a very bad year for Vince McMahon's image, 2020, between essentially bribing Florida to allow wrestling to be an essential business, to the Dark Side of the Ring episodes earlier this year on how WWE handled the Martha Hart situation with Owens passing and all the lawsuits that ensued, especially for years when we were convinced that she was the one that was the wrong in that situation, right? The Dark Side of the Ring situation actually opened people up to her point of view, to where we can understand why she did what she did and how WWE really more is at fault for it than anything. To the fact that a lot of the COVID releases weren't needed since WWE was having probably one of the best financial years they could have possibly had, since they were able to save on costs from not having the tour, right? And yes, a lot of other businesses do too. And it gets to the point where it's like, I think Chris Rock said it best. You could drive a car with your feet if you wanted to. Doesn't make it a good idea. And in this situation, when you apply that logic, it doesn't make it right or justified to do half the stuff, release half the people for absurd reasons, just because you legally can get away with it. You know what I mean? We've seen people with job security lose their jobs. Gallows and Anderson signed a 5-year extension with WWE last fall and found themselves earlier this year on the unemployment line. And thankfully, they're able to bounce back in Impact. I'm pretty sure Zelina Vega will be fine in terms of companies are going to want her just off of what she's done in the past 2 years, let alone what she proved years before she showed up in WWE. So, it's a waiting game. We're going to see who else gets affected by it. We're going to see how Zelina bounces back from it, which she will. Very confident that she will. We also have the obvious question, how does it affect Aleister Black? Because as Randy and Eric brought up on the live earlier today, check that out if you haven't. Aleister Black wanted to go back to NXT, and rightfully so, because his last year on the main roster going into this year has been a very weird and slippery slope. And he got denied. Now his wife just got fired, and they just recently opened up a clothing line not too long ago, which I assume isn't coincidental, considering they were probably doing that also to make some profits on the side as well. We saw Randy Orton and his wife do the same thing. So a lot's happening at once, and it's not going to end anytime soon. I kind of wonder how it's going to affect some bigger stars, because for a guy like AJ Styles, who was streaming on Mixer going into Twitch this year, is he okay with it? Like, he recently had to close down his Twitch, and I know he's not okay with it, but can he afford to not have that side hustle versus somebody like a Zelina Vega, who is obviously a lot more important to, and they might be more integral to, her income. So I want to see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if Paige is the next person to leave, especially considering her frustrations with the company for so long. I'm trying to think of all the other streamers. I think the only two people I could think of that might be secure maybe are AJ and Xavier Woods, considering WWE promotes up, up, down, down at every point. If not, Xavier will hilariously drop it in a promo on television every other week. So, who knows? But it's not a good day for wrestling. It kind of feels like the COVID releases because of how unnecessary it is and how unfair it is. But it definitely continues to push a narrative that hopefully will be resolved by next year of how, one, the wrestling business, while yes, or has its origins in the Carney days, has to get with the times. AEW already provides health insurance for its talent. They treat them like a sports team, especially under the model of Tony Khan's, how he handles the sports teams that he owns. It's about time that the biggest promotion in the world finally start to care for the talent outside of when it's convenient.
Of course, man. And it's a big shout when you mention like Xavier Woods, because I think back, Zack Ryder, a guy who basically pioneered using just social media in general to make it big. And it's one of those things where, like, it's unfortunate that Vince McMahon and the rest of the powers that be at WWE don't necessarily see that outsourcing to get that fanfare helps. Total Bellas did work under the WWE umbrella, but the Zack Ryders of the world did own Survivor Series 2011 without even being on the pay-per-view. Xavier Woods, before they knew, they basically were accepting Up Up Down Down as his own entity. They got themselves over more through that channel than actually on television, which was crazy because they were already getting over, on like a great standard. So it's a very unfortunate day. It's a very time.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off, but there is one thing I wanted to say. I just remembered it because it was kind of ironic, because Randy and I had a one-on-one conversation weeks ago where I told Randy that I think the reason why, Vince is in such a huge control frenzy with, having these locks on people is because Vince has been the victim of many a wrestler getting over on their own, as you said, and leaving him high and dry. We've seen it with pretty much every face of the company, including the one you thought would be the most loyal in John Cena, where a lot of Vince's best, like the guys he relies on, end up becoming bigger than the business. And it kind of is ironic because, you know, you bring up the phrase like no one person's bigger than the WWE, but it's been proven time and time again that a lot of people can touch that, like can scratch that surface and say, yeah, I am, even if it's for a limited amount of time. You think of it with a guy like Zack Ryder, another pioneer of the social media stuff that doesn't get enough credit for it is Matt Hardy, who was doing it in the mid to late 2000s, well before, you know, the social media platforms we have right now really took off. CM Punk, when he brought in the pipe bomb, a lot of the ESPN and a lot of those like networks and partnerships that WWE originally got laughed at for even considering trying to get, he was able to do that with the pipe bomb, to the point where he even brought it up in the shoot interviews, how he wanted to put sponsors on his shorts and try to get like some outside stuff for himself that WWE would not allow him to do, but allowed Brock Lesnar to keep upon him coming back. You know, so that's why I say I don't like the fact that it's very pick and choosy with how WWE does it, because for the most part, they don't like it. It is business. There's no soul in business. We get that. But in the reality, if you make business good for everybody, then everybody would be happy. Like if certain people were allowed to do real business with WWE, where like you could have somebody like CM Punk get sponsorships that help him out, similar to how a lot of mixed martial arts fighters are able to get those sponsorships and make some money on the side along with their purses. If you allowed some of the women to do certain things, like if they want to open up Patreons and OnlyFans, or the people who have Twitch do their thing, like it should be able to coincide with the business that's already happening. I can understand why, you know, WWE would be kind of concerned with having some people go into other fight disciplines, because maybe if you suffer a huge loss in this federation, right, it might affect your value in the current federation you're in, right? I could get that to an extent, but the micromanaging, we're past the point of obsessive micromanaging. Now we're at the point of like shackles, it feels like.
Yeah, I find it funny, and like you did touch on a point earlier in regards to basically no one person is bigger than the company. I think that the straw that broke the camel's back was The Rock, right? 2004, he's trying to get a new deal, and everybody kind of points towards Vince McMahon, and most importantly John Laurinaitis, who at the time was the guy who was basically taking on the reins of putting down that contract, and they didn't give him that contract. I think that was like, you know, if we had to basically turn back the hands of time, I think that looking back at that time period, like the pettiness at that point kind of lended towards what we have today. Like what if John Laurinaitis actually gave The Rock the contract that he wanted? Because The Rock was willing to still perform in the company. He was willing to still work under, you know, the system, put people over. He basically left the company getting tore in half, or like halfway through like his stardom by Goldberg at Backlash. So he was willing to put people over. It was just a matter of what number, how many years, and he was willing to commit, to the point of which back when they inducted like his grandpa and his dad, he came back. So it's just one of those things where like we kind of look back and we're like, this whole power struggle with Vince McMahon and the whole no one's bigger than the business, you kind of saw that like start with The Rock. So
Yeah, and I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
Even back in 2009, I remember watching a video. I think at the time he was filming Faster. He was leaving a gym. They interviewed him briefly. They kind of bum rushed him. You know how TMZ does it. So TMZ bum rushed him. They asked him for an interview in terms of going back to WWE. This is 2009. And he was talking about how WWE still owns a piece of him, you know? And back then, I'm like, it's kind of screwed up, because I remember like, all right, they own the name The Rock, but like they own basically merchandise that he wanted to do. Aspects of what he wanted to do during those 7 years, he couldn't really do because of what WWE basically blocked him in every corner. You know, during that time, he was going through a lot. He wasn't making the kind of money he was making. you know, he was, like, I think he did like one movie per every 2 years between that 7-year stretch. He went through depression, you know, divorce, certain opportunities he wanted, he couldn't get because of that WWE attachment to it, amongst other different things that happened alongside during that time. But it wasn't until when he finally decided, all right, fuck it, I'm going to basically just go into business for myself and do it the right way. He legit built himself from the ground up. He still had enough popularity during that time. Let's be clear on that. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of where he wanted to take it. So when a new lane was ushered in back in 2010, 2011, he was like, oh, yo, like I have my own production company now. You know, him partnering up with his ex-wife to basically open up $7 Entertainment. That wasn't something that happened overnight. And now you see where it is today. It's a multi-million-dollar company that he's even allowing other people like John Cena to see the light and find different ways to make money.
Man's bought the XFL
from Vince year, to be petty,
which is just like,
so that basically tells you everything you need to know about the situation here, where it's just like, you know, you lead with petty, you get petty,
and those are some of the major ways.
Yeah,
all over the place. Creative control with Hogan.
That's
Austin walking out on the company.
That's just one of those.
Son is another thing too.
Yeah, and we could talk about it till the cows come home. But I hear 3 minute warning.
Yeah, cows.
3 minutes too long. we got to keep the ball rolling. Of course, our thoughts are out to Zelina Vega. She gonna get on her feet. She gonna be employed, whether it's AEW, NWA, Impact.
Impact,
it don't matter. Anywhere, everywhere, we're gonna see you and we're gonna shout you out.
Please get the money.
So basically, we have not recorded a like traditional us, you know, just chopping it up podcast since before Full Gear. Full Gear has came and passed. We had AEW, basically the show following Full Gear. We had Monday Night Raw promoting Survivor Series, SmackDown promoting Survivor Series. We had Impact. We had AEW. We had, of course, I said AEW, and NXT, of course. Your takeaways of the week, man, because like it's been a loaded week beyond the news that we got this past Friday. You know.
My biggest takeaway from the week, we're going back from Full Gear, or are we going back?
We go back for Full Gear, all the way back.
Pac coming back. Pac coming back, because we've been so critical about that throughout this whole show.
Whole year.
Whole year. You're right. The whole year. Pac coming back and going after Eddie Kingston, I think, is one of the biggest things that nobody is talking about right now in AEW.
And the
Young Bucks are champions. Woohoo! Yeah, nobody cares. Yeah, we got what's the name? We got, you know, MJF in the inner circle. That's cool. Okay, whatever. The bastard coming back, going after Eddie Kingston. I think that is the biggest thing for AEW.
That's good stuff.
It's definitely good stuff. And I ain't gonna lie, when I saw him pop out and he was pulling up against Eddie Kingston, he was like, yo, man, playtime is over. I almost shed a tear. Definitely. Kid Ty, man, your takeaway of the week, man. Your takeaway of the week. You had the Raw Smack. Your takeaway of the week.
It's been there's a lot. I'm actually opting to skip just because there's been so much. I kind of got to think about it a little bit more. I'm still kind of dead, guys. I just woke up before we did this podcast, so my brain's not all the way there right now.
It's all Gucci. People's Champ, of course, you know, your boy, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, he did create SmackDown. We did talk, you know, on the Carl Coulon Sports Hit List thing, we were talking, you know, Austin versus Rock, and they were basically, you know, promoting Rock. You've seen SmackDown this past last night. Raw, NXT, AEW. What's your biggest takeaway of the week, brother?
I need you to call me by my other moniker, please.
Oh God. Big Dog?
So we
No. Call me by my proper name.
I want him to call me
by my proper name.
Nah, listen. No. He could just listen. He
really just popped back in.
You're talking about the tribal chief, so we're gonna pop back in.
Hi, Grayson.
Yes, that's my niece in the background. She wants to be.
You know, so tribal.
So big, real, bro.
Tribal chief. You know, he basically pulled up. You know, opening segment. Drew McIntyre pulls up and he's like, "Yo, man, I'm coming. Yo,
That's my
I was
takeaway.
running stuff.
I like
before-
Desperate Drew.
Yeah.
Drew's desperate. I
You like
Desperate
you
Drew.
like Drew on the chase. A lot of people have mentioned that with baby faces, how they like when baby faces are
Yeah.
chasing. Like you like the story of them getting to the moment, which created the whole narrative, which I still think is false. The whole like heels are better champions than baby faces. I don't personally believe that, but that is one of my takeaways from the week. I'll say that. But not for the good ways. I mean, it did well, the segment, but I still kind of stand behind what I said a few weeks ago when I said that I still don't think that Survivor Series should be brand versus brand this year.
Yeah.
I think that they had more storyline avenues they could have went down in terms of just finishing out their stories, especially after exhausting us with the draft and everything.
This wasn't
And
the year to do it.
I'm glad you've turned a new leaf, Randy, because I was trying to tell you this, man, because especially after NXT went off with a bang last year, it felt like the right time to take a break from the brand versus brand thing, especially when we don't have any clear-cut authority figures that they consistently talk to us about anymore, outside of Adam Pearce, who apparently appears everywhere he wants, which I love the Scrap Daddy, but for the love of God, make it make sense. I don't understand why.
Hold on, I don't know what's Adam Pearce's deal here.
Don't worry about it, dog. Don't worry about it.
And that's the problem, Jay. I worry about it too much because I care too much. In a sport that is all that relies on investment more than any other sport, you got to make it make sense. Damn it, we're too used to things not having explanations.
Show me the money, Daddy.
And I'm tired of it. Look, I people can sit here and tell me, they're making the best out of a good situation. You're not wrong. But why do you put yourself in these situations on purpose? Not even by accident, on purpose to begin with. Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns right now is a match that a lot of people would like to see. Randy Orton versus Roman is an interesting match that you wouldn't mind seeing. Don't get me wrong, but like the way that look, I'll give them credit for this. The past couple years with Survivor Series, the road to Survivor Series has been fairly interesting because week by week, you see interactions you're not expecting, and you're seeing title changes happen randomly. AJ losing it to Bryan to fight Brock. AJ winning it from Jinder Mahal to fight Brock. You see some things that you're not really expecting on week-to-week TV, which can be exciting. But when the booking is so weird, radical, and nonsensical at times, it's not one of those roads you want to be on. It's sort of like being on a roller coaster, and there's a portion of the roller coaster that's been ripped apart. But you may land on the other side and continue your ride. It's like, yes, that's exhilarating if you live.
This is like one of the worst book-built Survivor Series I've ever seen. Like, there's been no interaction between champion and champion besides New Day and, the Street Profits.
And while we love that.
Yeah, we love it. I'm all for it. But then what about Bobby and Sammy? I mean, nothing's.
It's just
we've had no, to their credit, there have been promos back and forth between the two, but it's one of those things. But it's one of those things where it's like you could also bring up their past history. I mean, I don't want to talk about Bobby Lashley's sisters either, but we can bring the fact that you guys had a beef when you were both on Raw. You could bring up things that could help. For some reason, Vince doesn't like to bring up history because it makes things feel old. No, it makes us remember that there's a reason we can get invested.
Okay. So I'm gonna bring up a very, very random point. Hold that thought. This whole thing about forgetting like a storyline and dropping it dead. Very mid low tier character wise now based on their trajectory, but Otis, Drew, Dolph Ziggler, Bobby Roode segment. Not once did they mention that the rise of Otis, it was almost as if like Dolph Ziggler forgot that he was even in the storyline to begin with. He's back on SmackDown. He's basically facing Otis. And he's like, oh, his partner left him. His girl left him. It's like, yo, he could have definitely just pulled up and said, I fucked your bit. But there was no continuity there. I know it's a very minor detail, but for all intents and purposes, I think
it's nice to acknowledge it, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the thing with the whole Survivor Series thing, to your points, I completely agree. Beyond that, I'm upset with the continuity purposes of those sort of little things. Given the positives on SmackDown, because SmackDown to me, and I spoke with E earlier about this, I was like, it didn't like the whole brand supremacy Survivor Series thing really affected SmackDown this week, and you saw it because Raw has very much been all deep in every single storyline, mentions it. Every single storyline interacts with it. The promo is about it. On SmackDown, Roman, Tribal Chief, Jey Uso, this, Sami Zayn is the only person he's interacting. Yeah, Street Profits are talking about the New Day, but they're basically having interactions with Big E, a SmackDown superstar.
You think it's self-sabotage for SmackDown, though? They're doing that, too?
I felt there was a little self-sabotage. It wasn't bad. Like, it was a solid show, don't get me wrong, but it was, in a way, it was kind of like, it kind of took away from certain developments for me that SmackDown was building on.
Which is
why, of course, like, the whole situation with Survivor Series. Understood.
Like, this could have been like, it could have been the 2015 situation where you just went about Survivor Series as a straight shoot pay-per-view, have all the feuds conclude there, or if you started some there. I mean, I'm still trying to figure, like, I saw on SmackDown Chad Gable and Otis apparently are supposed to be working together.
Yeah.
Which, if you follow their Instagrams,
it's
a real life thing.
It has some continuity with that.
It has some, but here's my thing: is like when Chad Gable went on his whole rant about how he's going to be himself again. I didn't expect him to immediately be put in another group, which is a level of continuity that I didn't want. Because
I don't think it's a group. I just think it's just him being more so like that person, kind of like. I won't say Simon Dean in terms of like promoting something, but he's promoting something to get himself.
No, yeah, and here's the thing: that could turn in his favor. Like, he could be using Otis, turn on Otis, and start his true singles run there. This could be the prelude to that. There's potential, but it was one of those things where it's like I wasn't expecting it because the way he was talking, and that still could work to their advantage. It seems as though he was ready to go on his own because Gable, since he's been in prominence, I should say, he's always been with somebody else. And then when he's by himself, he looks like a Harlem Globetrotter.
I think from what I picked up is the fact that I'm not sure if everybody sees it, but in some ways it kind of reminded me of early Angle. I'm not saying they're going full-fledged on it. I'm just saying I like the subtleties in terms of how like quirky it was, and it reminded me of like young Kurt with the hair. And it's like, if they actually do this, like, you have something there. It's literally given to you in front of your fucking lap. All you have to do is just let it develop.
They've done the Kurt Angle, ironically Kurt Angle, but they did the whole Kurt, being funny kind of thing with everybody. Even Daniel Bryan with the whole "fist me, boys," like, and looking at him like,
yeah, we're getting flagged. Yep.
Yeah, we're getting flagged.
there the fuck it is.
But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's been a whole thing. I got a hot tag nobody brought up.
Yeah.
Hot take, should I say?
I was about to, yeah.
Nobody brought up the Mustafa Ali and Ricochet match. Mustafa Ali, excuse me. Nobody brought that up on a horrible. And I'm not gonna say it's a horrible Raw, but on
it was trash. Call it what it was.
They got garbage points on in a blowout.
Okay, so
call it what it was.
They scored 30 and they lost by.
That was the best match of the night. That match was hot to the point where I got my mom to watch it. That's how hot it was.
You know what's sad? The fact that Riddle and Sheamus had the match of the week prior, which was like a 3.5 star match,
right?
Possibly 4, and then you had Mustafa and your old boy Ricochet pull up what they've been doing a main event for the whole fucking summer.
That was a 4.5 star match to me. Don't be biased.
And it's like how you have one match on the show deliver the last 2 weeks?
I don't know. All right, okay. This is
what's up, Gene?
I'm loner here, but the whole storyline with the whole AJ stuff again. Survivor Series build-up has been crap. But
it's been fun.
Raw tag storyline, not only has been like continuous and solid and character-wise they basically gave you Sheamus, they teased Sheamus and Drew. They allowed you to basically embrace Keith Lee as a single star butting heads with Braun Strowman and have that Meat Castle thing. And guess what? Matt Riddle won 2 matches and practically wrestled for an hour, and nobody's talking about it. You talk about silent stuff right there.
I will give Matt Riddle his credit. I'm not a Matt
Riddle. His name is not Matt anymore. They took it.
His name is
Matt. Was a slave.
Let me explain. No. Y'all are tripping. Because I didn't call Chad Gable Shorty G. I didn't call Andrade Cien almost just Andrade. I still call Cesaro Antonio sometimes. At this point,
it is.
I've accepted it.
Regardless of the matter, I feel like Raw, for all the crap that has been given to us, they've been putting out some little subtle stuff where I've seen in spurts, whether it be through texting or in person. Shout out to People's Champ, where I'm just like, where he's just like, oh shit, oh, okay, all right.
Raw's had the better build up for Survivor Series than
they have, but it hasn't been a better show.
Well,
that too can be the same thing.
Well, this is something you expect from the company. You know they can have consistency if they try, and they're not really trying, but you can see that the effort's there. Like like you said, continuing Keith Lee and Braun Strowman in a new form. AJ Styles having character moments where, you know, in previous years he was known as like an aggressive, like hothead.
That's
Now
not Gable. This is the character for Angle. Continue.
Now you see a guy like AJ, you know, showing more comedic elements that we've only seen in spurts before. Matt Riddle is literally RVDing this and just like, hey, I'm here, I'm good, I'm talented, fuck with me. And then you have Sheamus over here, kind of like he's networking on LinkedIn right now, appearing in multiple like programs.
And you know,
he's passing around his resume.
The biggest thing throughout it all, that like my biggest takeaway from that, he's a heel who could be cool with a face. He is a heel who could be cool with a face, and it can't, because in WWE especially, it's like, I must hate all bad people. Sheamus pulled up with Drew. Yo, man, I don't fuck with the New Day. I don't fuck with half the people in my team. I mess with you. And then Drew's just like, why you gotta do that? Why you gotta do that? Why you gotta do that? I just said that whole thing.
That was one of my favorites. That's probably my favorite segment from Raw. I think I messaged y'all.
It was genuine. It was
exactly.
just a genuine.
And that's why I'm just like, I can't vibe with the fact that like Mustafa, like, you know, they like, I made a joke about it earlier, but I can't sit here and say that Mustafa Ali versus Ricky, that was dope match. That was match the night. But again, there was a lot of stuff in there that, you know, if you look back, it's just like,
I like it.
There's a lot of potential.
You know what I like more about the match, though? I like, because I'm big on this, the storytelling that went on in the ring. And the one thing that Retribution has lacked is, well, they lacked a lot of things, but story is one of them.
Yeah.
And probably their biggest. So the fact that there was a story told in the ring, inside and out, I appreciated it. So I wouldn't mind seeing another match between the two. I wouldn't mind seeing a feud between the two.
My question is, what is Mustafa Ali and Retribution's road to Survivor Series right now?
They don't even have
what is their end goal in terms of like what is the impact they're going to make at the pay-per-view?
Catering. They're making the food and they're bringing it. Catering. There is nothing that Retribution's going to do on this pay-per-view. If they do make a splash on this pay-per-view, it's probably going to be, I don't even think it's going to be during the men's. I don't think it's going to be during the men's match. Yeah, they should. If they book it properly, it should, because of who Retribution is.
We literally booked it.
We literally booked it. Literally.
You're just like, yeah, you know, you have your NXT
last
guy,
episode.
You have Riddle. Well, you don't even need Riddle at this point.
You don't need him.
But, you know, there you go. Ty is going to be back. Some technical difficulties. But, yeah, you know, it's been a struggle, you know, the Survivor Series build. But, of course, you know, the week leading up, you know, we have the whole situation where we have Drew versus Orton. The winner not only becomes WWE champ, but they go on to face Roman Reigns at Survivor Series, you know, so which
It'll be crazy if
dynamic
Drew actually wins. If Drew actually, because there's so many ways you can book this match. So no funny shit. When you look at this match going into Monday, obviously it's going to main event. Randy Orton, of course, has had a greater year as anybody, as has Drew. And the fact that these two are now colliding for the WWE Championship, with the caveat, the fact that Roman's in wait for that Sunday, and then The Fiend is also in wait because he intertwines with all three of them. So the crazy thing about it is, like, Roman could pull up based on Drew's antics on Friday night and screw him, but The Fiend can also fuck with Randy because it's like it's a new toy to play with, and The Fiend has not forgotten going into TLC, which ends out the year. There's so many ways you can go through this match and figure out what the end point is in terms of whether or not Randy retains or he loses. Because if Orton loses on Monday and then goes, you know, to this match with The Fiend going into TLC, doesn't need a title to tell that story. Mm-hmm. However, well, technically it does because last time they faced off, Randy took the title from him. Mm-hmm. But that match doesn't really need the title per se. Drew, in some ways, needs it to validate certain things that this year wasn't a fluke. And he wants to go in against this Roman Reigns. Not the Roman Reigns you saw last year's WrestleMania. This Roman Reigns now to see who's the best champion. And that can make for an intriguing thing. And it could happen either way, vice versa. Orton can still retain and then go against Bray at TLC with the title and make Drew that much more hungrier, because I like Drew chasing the title. I like desperate Drew. I need a desperate Drew.
And I mean, what you thinking about this, man? Because what you thinking?
Man, all right. So this kind of put a little something in perspective for me here. So we have, to be honest with you, we have 4 people in this dynamic. We have Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, Bray Wyatt. That's obviously the 3. The 4th, we got a waiting Edge from injury still coming into this. That can 5. I mean, okay, and obviously the 5th that you named, you know, Roman being there. Tribal Chief, excuse me. But I'm sticking with Raw right now. There's 4 main guys that all have a legitimate gripe for Edge has a gripe with Randy. Randy has a gripe with Drew, and he has a gripe with The Fiend. The Fiend has a gripe with all 3 men, and Edge is just on the outside looking in.
As the ultimate opportunist.
We've been booking a triple threat match. There could be a fatal 4-way for this title. There is a chance. There's a possibility there could be a fatal 4-way for this title. There could be an Edge, Orton, McIntyre, Fiend fatal 4-way for the WWE title. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
Will it happen?
Get me back to speed. I got hacked by Mustafa Ali.
So pretty much just like thinking about scenarios leading up to Survivor Series, since like there's Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre WWE Championship match. Who wins? Who goes on to Survivor Series? And not only that, but like going forward, because, you know, as you see, E's mentioning, Edge is coming back. Bray Wyatt's still in this dynamic, who has history with both Randy and Roman on SmackDown. That could play into something if that may be a possibility. But you have the returning Edge, as we said. So that's
because
more.
Basically, my fault, Jay. Basically, like all 4 of us have done, we've all booked a triple threat match, and we have all universally agreed that we wouldn't mind a triple threat if it happens. It should happen. But now there's the possibility of Randy losing his title, Drew going on to fight Roman, which I think they're very high on from the interaction on SmackDown. And now, like I said, you have a returning Edge that's looming. So now you have a possible fatal 4-way on your hands.
That's assuming that they continue Drew going after Randy. I mean, not Drew going after Randy, Bray going after Randy, because Bray's main inclusion in the storyline is that, you know, he wants gold again. He wants to get back on top, and it just so happens that one of the people that's on top or the person at the top is someone he has a beef with. It's recently been teased that Bray could attack Undertaker at Survivor Series. In the sense, and I don't want that to happen, but I'm not taking that out of the possibility. I don't know where your hands are going.
No,
that's where they went. No,
Yeah.
I'm saying like there's still possibilities, like even beyond just Edge. I think we all agree that shouldn't happen, even though they logistically could. It's like the Charlotte things. Like you could do it, but why should you do that? That doesn't make sense. Charlotte, in terms of the triple threat at Mania, the second one, what do you call it? I had to bring that. Sorry, the first one was perfectly fine. The second one, another day, bell to bell. Watch that. But what do you call it? You have, I think, with the Edge situation, the Edge one is, I don't know. When it comes to Edge and his injuries, we think he's going to come back at one day and he doesn't. I never rule out Edge because he's recovered quickly in the past. It might not be as easy now, 10 years removed from his prime, but still. I don't want to see a fatal four-way, to be honest with you. And the
you
reason,
would rather a triple threat than the fatal four-way.
if you do a triple threat, I think the only logical conclusion is that Randy slips out with this championship. But that doesn't necessarily mean Orton and Edge have to enter a championship feud. Orton could still drop the belt, and you could have Drew win the belt in the triple threat and continue the program with Bray, considering Bray now has an unlikely new enemy. And then Orton, it comes out of it still strong, and he wants to get back in it, and Edge stops him from trying to get back to the championship. And that could be Edge's back into the feud with even more reason why he's going after Orton than before, right? Because if you think about it, Orton beat Edge clean in the greatest match. Edge just so happened to get injured. Right. So I brought it up before how, like, if Orton were to become champion or such, or get close to contending for the WWE title, it would make sense for Edge to screw him out of that opportunity to give Orton a reason to fight him again. Because while in terms of a series situation, there is a tiebreaker to be had, in Orton's mind, you only beat me because we fought around in a parking lot. I beat you in a legitimate wrestling match. I have nothing more to prove to you. So Orton would have no incentive to fight Edge anymore. But if Edge were to cost Orton something that matters to him, i.e. what Randy's got in the background back there, then Orton would be like, okay, so now I got to kill you because obviously you're not going to go away.
So do you see Edge coming out this Monday then? No, too soon? I'm the only one that's booking something for future advance. I mean, it makes sense.
It would be smart. It would be smart for shock value. It would be Edge's MO.
It would be.
Really.
It would make sense.
I'm not ruling it out. But in terms of how it fits into all the continuities, it's a 50-50. It could work and pay off, but it could also not work.
It fits the narrative in the story.
It depends on if they want fans at the Rumble. If they want fans at the Rumble, which isn't too far off, then if they have fans at the Rumble, Edge will probably come back then. If they don't have fans at the Rumble, then Edge is due to return anytime they see fit. So,
and for all intents and purposes, they could just kind of do the revisit of the finish from One Night Stand 06. Instead of Cena, it's just Orton, and basically Edge spears him. He's like woozy, turns around, Claymore, 1, 2, 3. And Edge doesn't necessarily have to be cleared. He just has to spear the dude.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that actually
Christian ties into it. All the legends tie into it.
See, I wasn't even going to do that, but that put a smile on my face mentally.
No, it works.
But what do you call it? The one thing that I don't – there's another reason why I hope it doesn't happen, like for the title, is because a certain Mr. Money in the Bank is looming around, and he is due for something. I don't know what, but I want him as far away from Orton and Edge as possible. If Miz cashes in his briefcase on anyone, it's got to be Drew. It's got to be Drew.
It could make his career even.
If you want to make Drew be a 3-time WWE champion and make it make sense, like in the older days where storyline reasons explain why they lost it, it's Miz. Like, if imagine Drew just gets his title back and you love the chase, you're happy. Yeah, Drew got it back. Yeah. And then Miz managed to cash in.
To play.
It would make way too much sense, and Miz would get so much heat for it too. And it would propel him back to where he was. Not even where he was. It'll be somewhere in between where he was in 2010 and somewhere where he was in 2016.
Yeah.
It'll be up
I
to
would say
him to.
2016.
I actually argue 2010, to be honest. At first,
He's better. He's better than that now.
no, it's not. I
But
mean, in
listen,
terms of like immediate
fanfare.
momentum, he's not going to be back at 2016 right off the bat. That's going to take weeks of him kind of pushing himself even harder on the promos. But I'm saying that that's another reason why I don't want Edge to necessarily fight for the title, because there are other worthy contenders that make more sense for the narrative. Orton and Edge, like I said at the beginning of the year, it doesn't need gold, but the gold can play into the story.
Yeah, that's a fact. We've been dubbed. This is a WWE heavy episode. You know, quick shout to again AEW for, like, you know, Full Gear. You know, the
Cargill.
FTR,
What's up, Jared?
the FTR Young Bucks match. You know,
Shout
it
out
did
to
get
Shane
5
Helms.
stars. Shout out to Shane
Shout
Helms
out to Shane
in the Hardy verse. Shout out to Sammy Guevara. Like, he got his receipt. He got his receipt.
He got his
You
receipt.
know, the Undertaker Randy Orton thing. If you watch that, that was his receipt. That was all of that was his receipt.
Paid in full.
You know, basically, shout out to you know, Omega, Hangman Page doing their thing.
That was a great match.
You know, and of course,
Darby Allin, my man.
Yes, Darby finally getting the rub.
Yes.
yeah.
TNT champion.
But, you know, for all intents and purposes, with all the stuff and the fanfare and the shock and all of that happened with AEW from Full Gear and whatchamacallit this past Wednesday on Dynamite, I don't mean to steal their thunder and bring it back to WWE, but, you know, I can't be remiss in saying that we, out of the blue, we had a damn championship title change on NXT the same night that fucking Pac comes back. And you're just like, wait. You're like, Johnny Gargano does that thing where you're just like, hey, come on down. You see Ruff pop into the ring.
Was it Leon Ruff?
Leon Ruff.
Like Sasha Banks, Johnny can't keep the title.
My dude.
I
The W. He raised his hand.
I just want to talk about that for a second, because it's no secret if you watch these podcasts and you get the subtleties. I'm not a big fan of the way Johnny Gargano. There are many talents in NXT in the past 2 years that I've lost my desire to watch. Johnny Gargano was one of them. But in recent months, I've been coming back to Johnny as he's transitioned, because I didn't even really like his heel turn when it first happened, right? But I've got to say, after all the suffering I've been put through of Johnny Gargano being overexposed and the heel turn finally starting to work, this was the crowning moment of it for me personally, for a couple of reasons. One, I learned that the hashtag for the North American Championship is NXTNA, and that's just hilarious to me. Two, this was a legitimate shock victory, where you sat there and you really questioned the booking decision for a second in a non-smarky way. You literally just sat there and went, yo, what? I've never seen so many exclamation points in one time this year, and that's saying something. This was ridiculous. Like, the fact that the belt doesn't even fit around his waist, that he's so tiny, it keeps falling around his waist, is like the icing on the cake for me, because I wish NXT took more risks like this. You know, one of the biggest criticisms I've had with NXT is the fact that they've been pushing a lot of talent that already are hot. You know, I like the days of NXT back in 2013, 2014, where it was a mix of underutilized WWE talent, FCW talent that was being built up in their previous, developmental facility, and outside talent looking to help the brand. And while all the talent that come through do want to help the brand, the past couple of years, let's say the past 5 or so years, it's been a huge influx of getting hot talents that are not in WWE in here to make the brand more popular. So when I saw Leon Ruff win, I was like, and especially the past couple months, it feels like NXT starting to get back to pushing everyone at an equal rate again. And seeing Leon Ruff win was in one of those situations where I just sat there and I was like, I genuinely am happy. Not like, oh, I'm happy now, it could get better later. Like, yo, all my happiness is right here. Because now you have the potential to build a real underdog in NXT, not just the positional underdog that you see in feuds, right? Where you're like, oh, he's the underdog because he's fighting this person. No, like this guy right here looks like he has no business wearing wrestling clothes to the average fan. He is, yeah, it really is reminiscent of Spike Dudley in terms of his size. And he could actually win off of his cleverness. He won off a crucifix. You know, that could be the beginning of him winning in unconventional ways where it's similar to Rey Mysterio, where you sit there and go, yeah, he's undersized, but it's not like he can't beat you. It's all about the 3 count at the end of the day. Shout out to Shane Helms. It's all about the 3 count at the end of the day.
God.
You know, this is a Shane Helms. Put that in the title too. The Requiem of Vince McMahon, and all the love for Shane Helms. But I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of different ways you can go with it. And the fact that it came at Gargano's expense only helps him. It gives us more reason to watch him in NXT because now he has a real reason to be there other than just being a belt collector like Austin Aries was a few years ago. So I'm happy. I'm very happy. And Damian Priest's reactions made it even better for me.
I think Damian Priest's reactions was really genuine. Yeah. Like, it looked genuine. It was
and keep the beard.
Yes.
He has, recently in tap out, like things like he's been doing on Instagram, he grew a beard. Grow that shit back again. Add that to what you're doing right now, man. Go full on Rockstar with this.
Pretty soon,
I'm gonna live forever.
You know what? For future reference, this just popped in my head. But you know, a good way to consolidate the week. I'm a speak to People's Champ on this. We're gonna steal a Booker T. So one of Booker T's very much his segments of the week. It has to do with the number 5. So we're gonna work on it. We're gonna work on it. But you know, I think if we were to do it, one of the stars that we would mention would be a Leon Russ. So shouts out to him. Shouts out to Pac for his return. We'll be definitely, you know, in tune with that rivalry. Death Triangle basically having the whole conflict and the reunion / conflict because Eddie Kingston's around and all these different things. And all the things WWE, all the things, of course, Impact. We didn't necessarily get to touch on it, but, you know, for future reference, we will. But for now,
Moose dropped a crazy-ass promo recently.
They have a show tonight, actually.
That's a fact. It's tonight, you know. So we gonna definitely get to it. But for now, we got to pay our bill. Go ahead, People's Champ.
Before we pay our bills, we know we haven't been with you guys for the last couple of weeks. But there's a lot of stuff brewing within the Backstage Brawl here. There's a lot of stuff brewing, a lot of positive stuff coming. There's a cause of all this. We have a lot of stuff coming for you guys in the coming months, weeks, in terms of collaborations and, of course, guests. Yes, we'll be having some guests soon. So please stay tuned. We have some jam-packed shows coming for you guys. Of course, the season finale is coming up soon. So we got a lot of good content. Just continue to rock with the Brawl, and we'll give you that content.
The season finale.
Yes, we're having our season finale, and the season finale is something you don't want to miss. And on top of that as well, anybody that wants to collaborate with us, you know, we're giving the people what they want. We're already doing a Dirty Heels Backstage Brawl crossover.
That's coming.
You know, that's coming.
When we're not being flat.
I like it went from being subtle to like, yeah, now we doing collabs.
No. We could talk about the collaborations. We can talk about that.
But the guest,
Well, you know what? I'll say this much: we gonna show, we ain't gonna tell.
That's it.
I don't even know what the fuck's going on. I'm the one that's I'm on the audience.
We'll fill you in after.
I don't like your choice of words.
Now we don't need
boys.
Some devil
with the Brawl, baby. All the Brawl so you won't get run over.
What? Who we hit? And
the Richard Shelby promo.
Cold here, baby.
Ty, Diamond Cutter, myself, the GoldenChild.
Yo.